There's a voicemail sitting on my phone right now that I still haven't deleted. 41 seconds long. My wife's voice, laughing, talking to her sister about timing and walking away with something. She didn't know my mother heard it first, and she definitely didn't know what my mother would do next. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll understand why some of the quietest people in the room are the most dangerous ones to underestimate. And if stories like this get you, hit subscribe now, because you're going to want to see how this one ends. My name's Daniel, 38. I run an HVAC business out of Columbus, Ohio, but 7 years ago, I was living in my truck, not exaggerating, a 2003 Ford F-150 parked behind a Waffle House, heater busted, saving every dollar from side jobs fixing furnaces off the books. That's where I met Renata. She worked the counter weekends, slipped me extra hash browns, told the register it glitched. I believed her for months before I realized she just liked me. Her mother didn't. I heard her once through a thin apartment wall. "He's a placeholder husband, Renata, nothing more." Renata told her to stop. Back then, that was enough for me. We got married in a backyard, 40 guests. I wore my only suit, loose in the shoulders because I hadn't eaten a full dinner in 4 months. Here's the part that matters. 7 years later, I landed the biggest contract of my life, 42 commercial units, the kind of deal that changes everything. I thought my wife would be proud. I was wrong. And what happened at dinner that night is only half the story. Keep watching, because the real twist doesn't happen at that table, it happens after. Renata changed slow, not all at once. Little corrections in public. It's fewer, Daniel, not less. A Range Rover lease she signed without telling me. Saturday brunches with women I'd never met. "Who are you with today?" I asked once. "Oh, you wouldn't know them," she said, already scrolling her phone. I let it go. I always let it go. My mother, Connie, came to stay that weekend, 66 years old, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who says almost nothing and somehow hears everything. Renata wasn't thrilled she was coming. She never said why. Friday night, dinner, I told them about the contract. My mother squeezed my hand. "Danny, look what you built." Renata barely looked up. Someone mentioned how far we'd come from the truck days. Renata laughed. Tired, sharp. "Oh, please, you're lucky I even married you. Nobody else wanted a broke mechanic living in his truck." My face went hot. I stared at my plate like it owed me an explanation. My mother didn't say a word. She just sipped her tea, watched. I should have known that silence meant something was coming. If you've ever been humiliated by someone who's supposed to love you most, in front of the one you didn't want to see it, you already know that feeling in your chest. Comment "I know that feeling" below if you've been there. Now, let's get into what my mother did next, because it's the part nobody saw coming. After dinner, my mother asked to help Renata clean the kitchen. I stayed in the living room. The kitchen door doesn't seal all the way. Never has. I heard my mother's voice first, calm. "I was married to a man just like your husband once." Renata, "That's a different situation." My mother, "Is it? He was poor, ridiculed by my family, worked himself half to death building something real. I taught him, without meaning to, that love came with a price tag. He learned that lesson well. Once he had money, he left. I buried that man 20 years later, alone." Renata scoffed. "That's old-fashioned. Daniel's being dramatic if he told you that." "He didn't tell me anything," my mother said. "I've just been listening." Downbeat. That line, I felt it land even from the other room. Something in her tone changed then. Slower, quieter, the kind of quiet that makes your skin go cold. "I heard you on the phone Tuesday, Renata. The speaker was still on when you walked into the other room." Silence. "You said you needed to time it right. No point walking away from nothing, you said." I stopped breathing for a second. She didn't reveal everything yet, just enough to make Renata's voice crack when she answered. That's not what it sounded like." My mother didn't argue, she just let the silence answer for her. "We're not done yet. There's more evidence coming, and Daniel doesn't even know the full extent of it until the very end. Stay with me." I walked into that kitchen. I didn't plan what to say, it just came out. "How long?" Renata spun around, that practiced smile flashing on fast. "Daniel, you're being ridiculous. Your mom is turning you against me." "How long, Renata?" She didn't answer. Instead, "You should be grateful I stayed as long as I did." Stayed, like she was a sentence she was serving.
I told her about the truck, the 4 months of 1 meal a day, learning HVAC repair off free YouTube videos because I couldn't afford the course. Every single day, she pretended not to mind I was broke, while apparently running a countdown clock the whole time. She hit me. I didn't move first. My hand went to my cheek slow, like I was checking if it actually happened. For a second, the room just rang. Not the slap itself, the silence after it. That's the part nobody tells you about. It's not the pain, it's the shock of realizing someone you built a life with just chose violence over an apology. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in 7 years, I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing, like something inside me had just quietly closed a door. I didn't yell, didn't hit back. I just stood there and let the silence do what silence does. It made her look smaller, not me. My mother stepped between us, calm as ever. I already forwarded the voicemail and the messages to Daniel's attorney this morning. Just wanted to confirm the prenup was still airtight before anyone said another word. Renata's face went white. "Wait, did you catch that? She wasn't just listening all weekend, she was already 1 step ahead the entire time." That's the twist coming up next, and trust me, it's not the last one. Divorce was finalized 6 months later. The prenup held, the business stayed mine, the house stayed mine. She kept the Range Rover for exactly 3 more months until the lease ran out and she couldn't cover it alone. Word got around. Her brunch friends disappeared quietly, one by one, once they heard why the marriage really ended. I moved into a smaller place, quieter. My mother stayed a few extra weeks, and we'd sit at a cheap second-hand table, talking without performance for the first time in years. The business grew. 42 units became 60 by spring. I hired 2 employees. I started sleeping through the night again. Hadn't realized I'd stopped. Then, last month, something happened I didn't see coming. Beat. I got a call from my old attorney. Turns out, while going through the final paperwork, they found something buried in Renata's original financial disclosure from years back, a small inheritance from her grandmother she never mentioned, money she'd hidden the entire marriage, as her own sister admitted under oath. She'd been planning her exit long before that voicemail, long before the contract, maybe from the very beginning. Pause. Funny thing about people who accuse you of being lucky to have them, sometimes they're the ones who've been counting the exits since day one. Last week, my mother and I had dinner. Same cheap table. She reached over, same way she did that night with the good news, and said, "Danny, look what you built." This time, I let myself hear it. She told me I was lucky she married me. Turns out the real luck was learning the difference between someone who loves you and someone who's just waiting to see how much you're worth. If this story hit different, tell me below. Team Daniel or Team Connie? Smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because next week's story might just be the one that breaks you. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.